YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Kevin Auer here, joined by a couple of the honorary members of the 956 Media Mafia, our good friends
Yeah.
from South Texas Football Unlimited, Jake Romero,
What's up?
tuned in from Odom, and Justin Viera from Portland
What up?
in GP. So what's up, guys?
Not a lot, man. Trying to survive. Everything's crazy right now. Did you hear there's like murder hornets or something like that?
Yes, that was insane.
Yeah. I guess now, we got hurricane season, so there's gonna be murder hurricanes coming up pretty soon. So you guys be ready for that. Stock up.
I hope not, but yeah, I did see those Hornets deal. Like 2020 couldn't get any worse.
Yeah, hey, we're just starting, dude. This merry-go-round's just getting going.
Well, as soon as we got on here, we couldn't help but notice the hoard of toilet paper you have in the back.
Yeah, man. So we work for a pretty good chemical company, right? And every year they give bonuses out. And turns out at the start of this pandemic, we got our bonus, and you can guess where mine went. So now that their shortage is kind of over, I don't know what to do with all this stuff.
You can send some down here.
I could, but I don't want to be like that guy that got busted on Amazon or whatever. He had to give all the stuff away. So I don't know. We'll figure something out.
I've seen a guy a couple of weeks ago. He was actually selling paper on the side of the road here in town.
I saw that too. Like when everything was kicking off. Remember that guy on Leopard, Justin?
Oh, yeah. No, seriously. We live right next to Corpus, so you see some of the ratchet stuff going on, and toilet paper being hustled was one of them.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of Corpus, dude, we're viral for all the wrong reasons. But did you see that car chase like last week?
Did it make it down there?
Did it make it down there? Mary King shared it, so it got a lot of views, man. But it was pretty intense, man. Went through Odom, went all the way downtown in Corpus. It was amazing.
Did you watch Breaking Bad, Justin?
Yes, I did.
I'm rewatching it because of this whole deal. I just rewatched the Fly episode, and it's just funny that you mentioned that the flies.
Dude. Okay, disclaimer. I'm in the garage hiding from the boys. I have a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. So they would honestly disrupt this whole show. And for whatever reason, I cannot get rid of these flies, dude. I have 2 or 3 flies, and I cannot get rid of them. I put fly traps out and everything, and they just seem to never go away. So ignore the fly, please.
Well, let's get things started, guys. Jake, you mentioned, you've still been in work over this past month and a half or so. How has your work been?
Yeah, it's we're considered essential workers. Essentially, we work at a chemical plant down here on the Gulf Coast. So nothing's really changed as far as the daily operations go. We've instituted some social distancing things. We've got to wear masks when we're within 6 feet of each other, and when we're out in the unit, working with outside contractors and things like that. Hand sanitizer everywhere. We buy it by the barrel, apparently, and distribute it that way to the different parts of the plant. But as far as not working every month so much and getting our full 4 days off, I mean, nothing's really changed.
Slower, but it's about normal, I guess you could say.
How about yourself, Justin? How have you been with work and everything?
Oh, it's same thing, man. We work together, so we're just different parts of the plant and whatnot. And our side, for whatever reason, seems like it's been high speed with maintenance and stuff, which you think they would have slowed down a lot, considering some of our other buddies that work in other refineries and stuff. They're like bare minimum. So I guess it's good to see that we're still putting out production, but it's definitely a little different with the masks and whatnot like that. I'm not a fan of them, to be honest with you. But, you got to follow the rules. I did find out, though, there is another hand sanitizer out there besides Purell, and it's almost like a cloudy milk-looking color, and it peels your skin off.
Yeah.
Remember the one they bought us?
Yeah, it's intense, dude. It's probably like 3,000 proof, dude. I mean, you rub your hands together, and there's like residue in your hands, and it took us the longest time to figure out what it was, and then we were like, dude, that's our skin.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, for us, obviously, we're put on pause completely here, with sports. It was Friday the 13th when we had our last softball game that we broadcasted down in Brownsville. But that whole week was just kind of weird because that Tuesday we had a softball game. In the middle of the week, we were starting to hear a little bit about this deal. And at first we're like, maybe people are overreacting. It won't get here. We'll still play ball. So, we went about the week as normal. Friday comes, and that's when games were starting to get postponed. And then some teams did get their games in, but the conversation that day was this going to be the last game that these kids were going to play? That fly is really bothering you.
Dude, it is annoying me. God, I did not think that through.
But so there was just a lot of uncertainty that day, and in between the innings, I was talking with umpires, and they were just asking, what we thought was going to be happening next. And at that time, guys, we all knew that March, or was it the 29th, was going to be the first date, until maybe spring sports could come back. But how has Corpus handled the whole pandemic, with the schools, and how you guys saw the spring sports all come to a close?
Justin, you go ahead and start. I'll jump in.
Okay, yeah. Jacob's probably got more insight on the school part, considering he is on the school board of Odom. But to me, I didn't really see it coming that fast. I didn't think the sports would get shut down like it did. Everything just kind of came to an abrupt halt. For me personally, I was disappointed because I felt like we had two heavily favored teams down here to win state in baseball, that being Vets Memorial and obviously Refugio having a stacked team that went almost all the way last year. So that was disappointing for me. I wanted to watch both those teams. They have a tremendous amount of talent on there. My hometown, GP, we had a very good team. Cal Allen had a very good team. It seemed like Moody had a pretty good team. So I was disappointed in that aspect to see the sports go, but I kind of understand it, considering what came from the top down. Other than that, it's been kind of business as normal for me. It's just the loss of the baseball season was kind of hard to take. And then, of course, not getting to see 7-on-7 right now, that's also kind of hard to take in because there's some very good teams that I thought was going to make runs this summer that I was looking forward to watching as well. So that's been my side of it. Jacob's got a little more insight on the school part of it.
Yeah, it's about the same. Once all this stuff started coming down, superintendents hear a lot of stuff as things start developing. And it seemed like we knew back in March when all this stuff started happening that everything was going to be canceled for the year. They kept extending the date little by little, kind of to show hope, right? Maybe things will change, and maybe this thing will drop faster than it's rising, and maybe we will be able to return to normalcy as far as sports go and whatnot. But they always held that in their back pocket, and it just ended up that way. And like Justin said, we had two, maybe even three. Sitten was going to make a good run this year.
Oh yeah, Sitten,
up to the tournament, and Cal Allen's always strong. So, it was it was disappointing, especially our 5A kids. Last year they were knocked out by all the Valley schools.
Valley schools.
If you remember right, that was the first time that we hadn't had a team in the state tourney in any class in what did they say, like 18 years, 13 years, something like that?
It was a long run. Bishop, we forgot about Bishop. Bishop had a strong team this year as well.
Yeah, Bishop had a strong team, and our mighty Odom Owls down here we're gonna turn some heads this year. We had a kid, and I don't, other than Jared Kelly out here at Refugio, who's in our area is a once in a lifetime talent. We had a kid here at Odom who, God, he was just ready to start up in district, through a perfect game this year. So the skies were the limit for these kids in this season. So it really it stunk, and we hurt for those kids pretty bad. But it is what it is. Now we just we kind of hope and pray that everything keeps going through the summer, and maybe our numbers go down, and we get a fall football season.
Being close to Odom, when we found out that spring sports were going to get canceled, how do you know how the coaches handled it on maybe reaching out to their teams, with softball and baseball and track, and just how they handled that on letting the kids know on this, how the season was going to come to an end?
Well, our guys were doing the same thing, and talking to the coaches in the region, they all kind of did the same thing. I mean, everybody. I don't know if you saw. This is kind of unrelated, but kind of related in a roundabout way. I don't know if you saw the Zoom stock price once all this stuff kicked off. I think it was trading at maybe $45 a share, and once this thing kicked off, it jumped up to $160 a share. Yeah. I mean, essentially,
it's at 147 today.
147. Yeah. See, there you go. So just the same thing. Like I said, all the coaches in the region are doing the same thing. They're getting on Zoom, and they're conducting their Zoom meetings that way. And, it stinks not being able to do that kind of thing in person, but with everything that we've got in place, coming down from the governor and whatnot. I mean, there was really no way around it. So, man, it's like breaking up with a girl through text or getting a breakup through text. You had to do it that way.
Well, you saw, did you see the thing on, was it KRS? They were showing the Lee Yeager and how they were conducting, getting there. Once they officially said, okay.
Hey, it's on your hat, dude. It's on your hat, the fly.
Oh,
it's on your hat, dude.
I know. God. They said the season was like canceled. It was no longer just pushed back, like it was done. They had to come in like one at a time, clear their lockers, turn their stuff in, and move on. Pretty much say, I guess their goodbyes to their coaches if they were seniors, and see you next year if they were juniors and sophomores. So that was one of the ones that we saw here locally, how they did theirs. I'm not sure about everywhere else, but I've considered probably about the same. Just a tough one, I think. Yeah, but there is light at the end of the tunnel, I do think, though, considering we're starting to reopen. As long as I don't think we have another run of cases, I do think we will get a fall football season. I'm really thinking we will.
Yeah, and I think that was another challenge for these coaches too, is that trying to get all the equipment back. And I know some coaches had sold posters, some coaches had sold fan shirts. And I know one of my buddies in Rio Hondo, the way they did with the uniform turn-in was through the drive-through there in front of the school, they just had the kids, they put out a box and the kid just walked up to the box, put their uniforms in there, and then left. And then they went and got the box, got it, cleaned it off, put it away. And that's what they were doing, just, kind of like a drive-through sort of deal. That's what the coaches have just kind of getting creative on how to get all their equipment back, all so abruptly. Talking about the world of sports, guys, when did you feel, I've had this conversation with other people on the show, is that I see this as a domino effect. In my opinion, to me, the NBA was the first domino effect when we saw everything kind of follow suit. Did you guys feel that same way, or what was the first major domino in you guys' eyes as far as the sports world goes?
I'd have to agree with you. I think that would be it. Yeah. Because that essentially was, well, actually, I mean, it was once you put I guess a familiar face with something like this, and I guess that kicked off with Tom Hanks, right? And then it kind of dominoed from there. I mean, once you see somebody who's in the national spotlight all the time get it, you kind of think, oh, well, if he can get it, I can get it.
Oh, sports world, Sean Payton got it.
Yeah, Sean Payton had it.
Gobert got it. Mitchell got it in the NBA. I think that's what kind of put the nail in the coffin on the NBA season as of now.
What really got it for me was when Slim Thug got it. If Slim Thug got it, yeah, dude.
What?
Yeah, well, those were the original reports. He come out and said on his Insta feed that he had it, and then he posted a test maybe a couple of weeks later, said he was negative. But I don't know, maybe it was a bad test up front, but that really hurt me. That hurt me.
Von Miller.
Von Miller had it as well.
Von Miller tested positive. It was one of those days where it's kind of you remember what you were doing or where you were at when you heard the news, because it was such big news at the time. I tell people about the story. I was wrapping up a softball game in San Benito when I got the text saying that the NBA was going to be put on pause, and I was just like, wow, because at first it was just kind of like just all hearsay, and this is going on, and we really didn't expect to be where we're at now a month later. But then when we saw that the NBA got pushed back, and then we started seeing the college sports, I think March Madness was another big one. Because I think at first they were going to play the tournament with no fans, right?
Yeah, that was the original plan, was, hey, we're going to keep this thing going, just no fans, which would have been weird, but I mean, you got to get money to the university somehow, right? And I mean, that's really what they were looking at that point, right? Looking at the TV contract and the revenue stream that was going to potentially bring in, because all these schools right now are hemorrhaging money. At the high school level, we're a little more fortunate. But they're at the pro level and the collegiate level, they're just bleeding money right now. I don't know if you saw where some of these schools are already cutting some of the sports, the non-revenue sports, for next season because they just can't afford it.
Yeah.
Well, you saw WrestleMania with no fans. It was just different. And could you imagine watching NFL, NBA, MLB with no fans? I mean, it just doesn't seem right. I mean, I'd take it over anything, but still just would seem weird. But I am enjoying like the kickbacks on the retro games and like some of the old school, Super Bowls and World Series and whatnot that were classics. So that's been nice to watch, because you can't find that every day on TV, and sometimes it's on YouTube. So that's been nice.
Have you? I know, just totally switching gears right now. Have you been watching the Jordan documentary? I'm sorry, I keep calling it the Jordan documentary, but it's actually the Bulls documentary, The Last Dance. Have you been watching that?
Yeah, and yeah, you perfect segue, because I was gonna ask, what have you guys been watching, or if you guys have been gaming at all throughout this whole quarantine? But to answer your question, I have been watching The Last Dance. I need to watch the last, what is it, what's it, five?
5 and 6.
5 and 6.
I saw 5. I need to watch 6, but I think they're great, and I think the best part, my favorite part of the whole series so far, was just this last part, this last scene in the 5th episode, when Seinfeld and they're all there talking with MJ, and then he goes to the room by himself, and he's like, it's good to be acknowledged by celebrities, and it's good to have all these relationships, but when it comes time to perform, I'm ready to go. And he's tying up his shoes. In other words, he's like, I know when I got to turn that switch on, and when I want to turn that switch on, I turn it on, and I get in my assassin mode, and I go out there and play. I was like, man, that's so cool. Like, that's awesome. I just really,
He
it's
was
like,
cutthroat, man.
yeah, it's just, yeah.
You don't, you know, I don't know if we're ever going to get all access like they did that year at the '97 season, but I don't know if you'd ever see an athlete today act that way. I don't know. Maybe, but man, he had the killer instinct, and he knew how to take care of business. And you see a lot of today. You see a lot of back in the day. These players wouldn't have hung out, but man, he golfed with Danny Ainge the night before, the day before a playoff game. So there goes that argument. Oh, you can't be friends. You can't be friends. Well, no, I guess you can. Just go out and perform the next day.
I think Tom Brady has that same. He models for UGG. He's got a supermodel wife, obviously friends with celebrities, but I mean, he's proven winner championship. So I think he'd be the next person that as soon as he goes to that locker room. I've seen many documentaries on him, and they said as soon as he's in training camp and he's in the locker room, he's not a celebrity. He's Tom Brady, and he's locked in. So I would consider him, if you're talking about any athlete right now, he would probably be one of those guys that can just flip that switch and just be going. So there's that.
So what are you guys watching? Anything interesting on Hulu or Netflix, even Disney Plus?
Dude, I'm a big Formula One fan now.
Yeah.
A big one. I started watching that documentary or it's a series on Netflix. It's F1 Drive to Succeed or something like that. Dude, talk about cutthroat. Formula One driving, and those guys make, if you want to make a lot of money in any type of professional sport, you become a Formula One driver. Lewis Hamilton, who's the 5-time world champion, makes $78 million a year.
Does he really?
A year. Yes. So I'm very deep into Formula One racing right now. And it stinks now because there's no season, or they're canceling all these events. I was looking forward to heading up to Austin this year and go watch the event up there. But that's what I'm into right now is Formula One. I've watched every documentary on all these drivers and the history of these teams and whatnot that's on Netflix. Now, other than that, I really don't know what else to watch. War documentaries. I watch a lot of war documentaries.
Did you guys watch Waco?
Heck yeah.
I saw it when it was out on Paramount a couple years ago, and I'm getting ready to watch it again just because, like I said, you run out of stuff to watch.
It's good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I didn't realize Tim Riggins could act that well.
Dude, you're not kidding, right?
Oh,
All you know him is Texas Forever, and hey, but if you think about it, he does his best work in the state of Texas.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely.
He lives in Austin. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
He lives on Lake Travis. Imagine that.
Huh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
What about Ozark?
Love it.
I've waited. I haven't. I've heard so much about it. I hear it's good. I don't know. I haven't had the urge to watch it yet.
Jason Bateman, you peg him as a comedy guy, but in this show, I mean, Justin can attest to it. He's crazy good.
He's very good.
It's very good. And the third season, I think the third season came out maybe about a couple of weeks into this whole quarantine deal. So I watched that in about a week.
Yeah, I blew right through it.
It was so good. But switching gears to let's talk a little bit more football, guys. Yesterday in Hidalgo County, we reported no cases for the first time, and I believe it was 46 days. So that was a sign of relief here in Hidalgo County. Uh, I feel that, the valley's starting to kind of flatten out things, and, uh, we just lifted the curfew, so we don't have a curfew anymore. We used to have a curfew till it was at 10 o'clock at night. Everyone had to be home. The county required everybody wear masks. As far as my family and I, when this first thing got started, my dad and I are the ones that really go to the store, but we've worn gloves and worn masks from the beginning, just to be safe and, for everyone else. But, I feel that we're starting to get maybe towards, light at the end of the tunnel, like you mentioned, and that maybe in the summer we can start practicing a little bit. And then I feel that once the fall gets here, football can be back, volleyball will be back, cross country. Do you guys feel that right now where we're at, that football is on pace to start in the fall, more or less?
Go ahead, Justin.
I think so, to an extent. I think if everything continues on this pace, then we will see it in the fall. I worry that we jump back in too fast and get gathered up all throughout the summer. And then, here comes fall season and they cancel because we have an outbreak again. So I'm on the fence. I like the fact that we're reopening stuff. I'm for it. But at the same time, I just wish people would take a little more caution, right? Just because they say, hey, you can go back out in the public. I just feel like some people just don't take it serious enough. And it's like, oh, they lifted up the ban, so I'm just going to go back to how I was living prior. I don't feel like you should live in a bubble, but at the same time, you ought to take it a little bit serious if you do want your everyday life to come back the way you have been living before all this. So, yes, I do think we will see sports in the fall, but I do think there should be caution at least the next couple months. That way we don't get in that situation where we have to cancel again, because that would be not only a huge blow to sports fans like ourselves, but that would be a big revenue you would see drop out the bottom in the NFL, the college world, and pretty much all the way on down. I think that would be a huge effect. So I'm hoping that we proceed forward, but also have a little bit of caution in there.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It's good to start opening things up, and if you're not comfortable going anywhere or doing things yet, then don't. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of times you see people talking down on people because they don't want to be restricted at this time, or don't want to be unrestricted at this time, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I have the same worries Justin does. If you give people an inch, they're going to take a yard. And I think that's where we're at right now. You're down there by the beach. I mean, how are the beaches down on the island
Oh,
right now?
this past weekend, everyone was out there. My everyone on my Facebook and my sister's Snapchats and my other sister's Snapchats, we all know different people. Then everyone on their Snapchat was at the beach. We did go to Port Mansfield to go fishing, but there it's a lot smaller.
Yeah.
And there were way less people. There were people out there fishing, but it was my family and I in one spot, and we had the entire area to ourselves. Because I know that's one thing my mom was a little worried about was the people. I said, no, we'll be fine there, we'll be fine. But the beach, there was a lot of people at the beach, and I just felt it was a little too soon, or maybe the beaches could maybe, only allow so many people to go on to the island. But they did some news reports showing cars just filing into the beach, and I was just like, yikes. And honestly, what upset me the other day was the mall too. They shared a video of people lining up at the mall, and in my head I'm like, what do these people absolutely need right now at the mall that they can't wait for a couple months or a month? It was just very frustrating, because like I said, I felt that we were starting to level off. And then you just see a line of people there at the mall, and it's just like, oh my gosh, let's just hang tight for a bit. But yeah, you're absolutely right. We're as a family, we're not planning on going anywhere, to the mall or anything like that. Like I said, it's my dad and I that go to the stores. We go in and out. We wear gloves. We wear masks. So, but I do feel that football is on pace. Like Justin said, so long as we keep following these guidelines. Another thing is that it could also start a month later. We could be starting practices in, say, September rather than August. That's another possibility, and one that could probably kind of just even out. The season would just be a little bit longer. What do you guys think about that? Maybe the season starting maybe September.
For that, considering the heat factor would be down just a little bit. To be honest with you, that would make our jobs a lot easier.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But you know, it's the when we're talking about bringing sports back, I mean, it comes back to the bigger thing, right? When do you open schools, right? Because if your schools aren't open, you're not going to have football yet, right? So that's the hurdle we got to get over, right? Is okay. We're I'll give you an example here in Odom. We're a small 3A school. We have 57 graduating seniors this year in our senior class, right? So we're very small. You start going to those bigger schools like Harlingen. I was in school in Harlingen for 3 years in high school, and at the time, this is a ways back, we had the second highest enrollment in the state. So you get this mass of kids around. So it's how are you going to juggle that hurdle, or how are
Look
you
at
going to?
Allen, dude. Allen High School, I think, has what 6,300 kids in it,
Yeah, something like that.
right? It's pretty high.
So it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the summer with TEA and the UIL, because the UIL is not going to make a decision until TEA does. Once TEA starts rolling out with their information, the UIL will follow suit, just like how we saw with the school closings. Once the TEA said, okay, we're closing for 2 weeks, then the UIL would come back a few days later and follow suit. All right, sports are off for 2 more weeks, and then it went on and went on and went on. So TEA is their meeting. I mean, as you can see, things are changing already, right? Guidance came out yesterday after Governor Abbott's speech that you can start having graduation ceremonies again, right? So outdoors, right? So that'll be pretty interesting to see what's going to happen over the next few months. Um, but yeah, football, right?
It's been refreshing. I feel like it's been refreshing in a sense that like me and my wife have realized we've been able to go these like 2 months, month and a half now of stuff that we also used to always do on my days off that like we really didn't need to do. We've gotten a lot more stuff done. Yeah, I don't like being told, hey, I can't go out and about, but at the same time, it has been nice to kind of have some stuff taken away to where you can't do it, learn to live without it, and I've kind of enjoyed this weirdly being kind of locked down.
I know my wife has. I've got a lot, like you said, I've got a lot of stuff done around the house. Not working 6 and 2 anymore, working 4 and 4. So
Lot of money spent on just junk, right?
yeah,
So that's been nice.
yeah, that has been good, right? But I feel like we're strained, Kevin. I think we need to kind of rein it in a little bit, right?
What's that?
Let's start talking about some football, man.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was my next topic. What to expect? What can we expect from Corpus Christi football this year? And we saw Miller have a big year this year. So what are some teams to look out for going into next year?
Well, I tell you what, man, with this whole realignment, and Spud's going to piggyback on this very well. District 15 4A Division 1. I don't know if you're familiar with this district, Kevin, after the realignment. Um this is probably the toughest district in Region 4, if not top 5 in the state. I'm gonna read these teams off to you guys down in the valley, and you guys don't have very many 4A schools down there. Everything's usually 5A and up, really, and you got a couple sprinkled in there, 3A and 4As. But Alice, Beeville Jones, Cal Allen, Toloso Midway, Corpus Christi Miller, Port Lavaca Calhoun. That is one district. You've got one, two, three district champions in there. Miller moving down from 5A Division 1 to 4A Division 1.
We won district with 4A numbers last year.
Yeah, they
That's
played
one
they played at
5A
5A with 4A numbers. And got what, 3 rounds deep, almost 4.
They lost to a very good team.
Yeah, they lost to a district team, which was Corpus Christi Veterans, which you guys saw the last couple of years, who are still, they lost a few good players this past season, but I mean, they're the biggest school in the area. They're essentially our 6A school. They're a couple numbers shy of 6A. But they're always just reloading. But that's the district we're really looking forward to, is 15-5A or 15-4A Division 1, just because it's no team's going to come out of that district unscathed.
No.
Was that an expectation for that district to change up that much going into the realignment?
We started hearing it what couple weeks before the actual when they did the little preliminary drawing of the numbers, and closer it got, the more real it got, and then they made it happen, and then we started kind of digging deep into it, and man, that's gonna be a really hard district to get out of, and the winner's gonna be a really proven and tested team. So we're looking forward to a lot of those matchups.
And it's really a clash of offenses. You got 3 option heavy teams in Calhoun, and Beeville against 2 wide open offenses in Miller and well, Beeville's kind of a hybrid in Alice. You know, they're all of them were playoff teams last year. Like I said, a couple of district champions, so that'll be a good one.
Here's the kicker in that district that I think a lot of people are forgetting about. We get a rematch of Coach Evans against the school he was at previous to Miller in Alice. He did a one and done at Alice and took his talent to Miller, and you've seen what Miller's done ever since.
You know, they've got I tell you what, man, Miller, which is one of 2 only schools in Corpus Christi that have a state championship, and it was very long ago. You know, Miller High School used to be Corpus Christi High School. They've done amazing things under Coach Evans. Miller's always been kind of the basement team in all these districts they've had. They'll have a flash in the pan season here and there, but most of the time they've never really produced anything. But Coach Evans came in and he really changed the culture of that place. Brought in some new ideas, brought in some great coaches, and who can relate to that student body down there. And man, they're feeding off it. They're thriving off it. We hate to say it, but probably Miller was our favorite team last year. We don't like to pull favorites, but man, they were fun to follow. They gave us all the access we wanted. And
they did a lot with little. You saw the facilities they had to operate with, the locker room, you know, compared to your bigger schools that they were going up against down here. If you want to compare weight rooms and just, equipment basis, they did a lot with less in numbers. They did a lot with less numbers.
And, we're this is our only multi-ISD school district, right? Corpus Christi or CCISD. So you know how budgets work and things like that. So, but what they're doing is they're doing this really neat thing now. They're trying to make it a big deal to come to Miller, right? They're getting commitment letters from their junior high feeder schools. Hey, because CCISD's got a very liberal transfer open enrollment policy. You can move around wherever you want in that district because each school has a different program. I think I don't know if that's why they did it, but so they're essentially, hey, you want to be a Buck? We're gonna make you a rock star, kind of thing, and it's actually pretty neat, man. It's actually, I don't know, I like what they're doing. It brings freshness into the mundane, I guess. But going back to this district, we think whoever wins this district is probably going to is going to take the region and end up one of the finals.
I'm going to be a realist, and I think it's going to come down to you can't leave out El Campo. They have
they're actually region 3.
They got bummed down.
Yeah, they're in region 3. Okay. So I think out of everything that's moved around, I think Ace Whitehead and Lampasas could probably give our guy because they're probably going to be in the region final as well. That's who I see. I see a District 15 team and Lampasas and Ace Whitehead in the region final.
That's gonna be a good matchup either way.
Yeah. Starting out throwing shade on La Feria because La Feria is a perennial power down there, right?
They are, and they're gonna lose a lot. Dorian Hernandez, their senior quarterback, he graduated this year. He's gonna graduate this year, but they do have Dario Sanchez back. He was a junior. He also plays point guard. Extremely athletic kid. Avishai Dickerson's gonna be back. CJ Ortiz. So they're still gonna have a lot of weapons. They're still gonna have a lot of speed. Are they going to be as loaded as they were the last 2 years? I don't think so. But they'll probably them and Rio Hondo. Rio Hondo has a lot coming back offensively. Raymondville has Zaravion coming back. Dylan Ramirez, who's a stud off the edge on defense. And then Jason Cantu, he's a big junior, about 6'3", 6'4". He'll be playing quarterback there for Raymondville. So, that's the projection right now. But in the 4A, it's going to be tough, especially with Rio Hondo and in their new district and then their first by-district round. It's going to be pretty tough.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I was just about to jump into that, right? So that's 4A Division 2. And that's essentially our district. We're the Valley now here in the Coastal Bend, and that's where we start becoming the Valley schools is 4A Division two and down. Um, Corpus Christi, West Oso, Ingleside, Port Isabel, Raymondville, Rio Hondo, Robstown, Rockport, Fulton, and Sinton. That's going to be a pretty tough district as well.
It is, and right now Port Isabel, they're looking for a new head coach, so we're waiting to see who's going to take the reins there. And I know you guys.
I'm hearing it's going to be a familiar face. That's what I'm hearing. Whether that happens or not, that's who they want is a familiar face.
Right, and I try to get the list of applicants. The PI says they're not releasing it yet, but I do know some names that are applying, and there's some pretty big names. I can't obviously spill it just yet, but some of these names that have applied, I think can fit what Port Isabel is doing. Joey Creambaum's going to be coming back as a senior, so they have something to work with there. But I think in that district, it's going to be a lot tougher than people think it is, because in the last 2 years, it's just been a 4-team district, and you play out your season, you're in the playoffs. Progresso was the only one that moved down to 3A. But I think in that district, I think Raymondville, as far as the Valley side of it, they'll be the team to beat, because they are the 2-time defending district champions. And anytime you have a guy like Zaravion who can really do everything for Raymondville, I think they're gonna have a puncher's chance. But Rio Hondo is gonna be a team to keep an eye on. They're gonna all their entire offense last year was, I think they had 8 sophomores last year on offense.
Wow.
So this group that they have is going to be a very promising group coming into their junior and definitely their senior year. But I think that was probably the biggest shakeup when we saw the realignment. The big relief was that 32-6A is now an 8-team district. They added Donna North and added Weslaco High. So finally, 32-6A, which was a district I covered my years at the Star.
Yeah.
We got out of that horrible 6-team deal. I did not like it. The coaches didn't like it. I was not a fan of it. But I think the thing that maybe stood out to me the most from the Valley realignment was the 5A D2, I believe, when you had Weslaco East down with Pace, Lopez, Porter. Not only Weslaco East, but the 3 McAllens also moved down to 5A.
Right.
So now you're talking about a gauntlet of a schedule with East, Brownsville, Pace. Did you guys cover that game with Pace and Miller last year?
We saw it.
We watched it on the live stream they did because we were stuck at work.
I think we watched y'all's. I think if that's right. I think
we were not there for that one.
I don't remember who streamed it, but
Someone must have streamed.
That was on Channel 6, dude. No, we were off. I remember I stayed at home and watched it because the weather was bad, I believe. And it was on like Channel 6.
Was it? I don't remember.
One of the playoff runs where they actually streamed it on one of our local news stations down here.
Yeah, that was a little wake up call for Miller.
Yeah, no, Brownsville Pace, man, they're tough as nails. Danny Pardo down there, and what they're doing with Jose Banda, and he's coming back as a senior, and defensively they were very young. But Pace is in that district, and then Weslaco East. Guys, is Coach Burgett's track record with the things he's done at East. And then you add the 3 McAllens, McAllen Memorial, McAllen Rowe, and Mac High. So that district's going to be extremely tough. Brownsville Porter is a team that kind of flew under the radar. They lost some games, but they played real close. Coach Udesti is it's kind of changed the culture there a little bit there at Porter. But yeah, no, it's gonna be a really fun district to watch. And then essentially there is no 36A in the Valley anymore. That's kind of been taken over by Laredo. Whatever was from 36A, the McAllens went down to 5A, and the rest of 36A joined 31-6A, the Edinburghs, with Mission and La Jolla. So the 31-6A, my home district, the Edinburgh schools, they're reunited with the Mission. So AJ Sotolio from Vela against Jeremy Duran from Mission.
That's going to be a ball game, dude.
That's going to be fun. And then of course, Eddie Lee Marburger, he's getting ready for his encore, his senior year at Pioneer. And he committed to UTSA earlier this month. So we're excited to see what Eddie Lee can do at Pioneer. But, Mission Vets is another team. We're hoping that Ricky Reina can come back healthy from his leg injury. AJ Gonzake arguably one of the best, or if not the best wide receiver in the Valley. If you guys haven't seen that kid play, I mean, AJ Gonzalez is a player.
The kid, he's a heck of an athlete, man. He played a little bit everywhere last year because of injuries.
Right, right. Yeah, his versatility is insane, and he passes the eye test. And a matter of fact, maybe about 3 weeks before this whole deal went down, we went to San Antonio for that 7-on-7 tournament, and on that dream team, Eddie Lee was the quarterback and AJ was his receiver. And it's just like, man, you're watching this unfold in 7-on-7. You can only imagine what these two could do on a real football field. But of course, that's not going to happen. But just to
Hey,
advocate,
hold that thought, pal. Stranger things have happened.
definitely. But we're definitely looking forward to this year with high school football. It's going to be a little bit of the changing of the guard. Harlingen, unfortunately, they lost that first round game to Edinburgh Vela and Jaime Galvan. The year he had for Harlingen was one of the better years that they've seen out of the quarterback position in a really long time. And you guys were able to watch that Battle of the Arroyo.
Yeah.
And hey, I remember before the game, I said, this is probably one of the better ones we've seen in a while. I was way off, but for my sake, after that game, San Benito did not lose until they lost to Laredo United in the area round.
That is true.
So that game was their turning point, and after that game, San Benito won out until they lost in the playoffs.
I'm just about to ask about what's the expectation for the Battle of the Arroyo this year? Who do you what teams lost the most, and what teams have more coming back essentially between Harlingen and San Benito?
Well, I think they're both even when it comes to what they've lost because Smiley Silva was a senior, Jaime Galvan was a senior, Raiden Berry was a senior at running back. Justin Galvan will be back for Harlingen at wide receiver. Not exactly too sure what they're going to do with him just yet, as far as whether he'll play quarterback or receiver. They'll cook something up. I know they have a young running back coming up, and who was on the freshman team last year, who really tore things up. That they're excited to see. Their offensive line was big on the JV. And then as far as San Benito, Elijah Hernandez is projected to be the starter. I know they have Andres Villalgan, who's going to be a sophomore next year.
Yeah, we heard about him. It's quarterback, right?
Yes. I don't know if there's going to be a quarterback battle or not, but if I'd have to place a bet, I would say Elijah would be the starting quarterback next year for San Benito. But, I think it might be another even-keeled match because, they both lost equal pieces with San Benito and Harlingen. And then that district is going to be wide open again. There's really no favorite because last year Hannah had Victor Campos, and we felt that, with the year he had his junior year, he could kind of build off of that. But Hannah didn't make the playoffs this year. Harlingen South did in that 4 spot. But as far as Battle of the Arroyo goes, I think it's going to be a coin toss. There's a lot of question marks on both sides. San Benito does have Jermaine Corbin back at wide receiver. He's going to have a breakout year this year as a junior. Kyler Castaneja, who's going to be a senior this year finally. I felt like he never graduated. He's going to be back, and I imagine he will lead the district in rushing this year. Can easily eclipse 1,000 yards. But I would say that they're both evenly matched because they're both going to be looking for a quarterback. They're both going to be looking for some weapons when it comes to Battle of the Arroyo.
We got it's in Harlingen again this year, Spud.
Really?
The quarterback club president sent us a message saying the date. I already got the date of it and stuff like that. So hopefully there's a football season this year. We'd like to make it to the Valley a couple more times this year.
Why is it back to back in Harlingen?
I think just because of realignment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
The last go around, it was 2 years straight in San Benito.
Yeah, I enjoyed my time down there. That was fun. I'm glad I got to actually take one of those games in this year or last year.
Yeah, and it was really nice weather that day too when you guys came down.
It's great.
It was cold. I was cold. I'm like an iguana, dude. I've got to be hot, so I was cold.
Definitely, but yeah, no, we're excited and we're hoping that football can start on time. The big blow too was not having 7-on-7. That really stunk. We were looking forward to 7-on-7, and I'm a big 7-on-7 guy, and like my family's from Bryan College Station, so anytime I got to go up there and cover that the state tournament, hang out with the family, that was always a win-win for me. But that was kind of really the final nail in the coffin for me. I'm like, all right, you took sports away. What's next? 7-on-7, pow. was like,
Yeah, man.
I was disappointed in the fact I wanted to see Eddie Lee Marburger and Sherryland Pioneer have a chance to go back to the state tournament.
right.
That's what disappointed me for them the most, was not getting to see that, because it's nice to see what Eddie could do against some of that bigger talent up north.
Yeah, robbed twice.
Robbed twice.
Robbed twice. Last year with the fight thing and everything, that wasn't even their fault.
Yep.
And they get disqualified from the tournament. And then this year, I mean, obviously for obvious reasons, no tournament. So yeah, that kind of stinks. But yeah, I guess it is what it is.
So from down here, when we saw the realignment, I'm glad you mentioned that Miller district. You mentioned that gauntlet, and that's exactly what we felt down here. And we are like, wow, when Miller plays Cal Allen, how big will that game be?
It's going to be pretty big if they don't. I have to look at the schedule again and see what week it is. But if they're both undefeated, that could potentially be bigger than the Corpus Christi Miller, Corpus Christi Veterans games last year that were selling out Buck Stadium.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be a home game for both teams. Just because it's in Corpus, either at Buck Stadium or at Wildcat Stadium at Phil Danaher Field. And it's like I said, it's two contrasting offenses. You got Cal Allen's milk the clock, grind it out 3 yards in a cloud of dust offense versus Miller's high flying. Let's put the numbers up. Greatest show on turf. Right. So last year, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this or the Valley guys are familiar with this, but they were rated the number 7th offense in the nation last year. Miller was. They easily could have scored 100 points in a couple of those games they played last year. So it's definitely going to be interesting. And Cal Allen, of course, Cal Allen loses a lot, right? But you can say the same thing for Cal Allen every year. And they always find somebody to plug in and fill the void. This year, I think they lose a little more than what they have in the past couple of years, right, Spud?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. You always think, oh, hey, this might be their down year, and then they come out and it seems that way for the first like 4 or 5 games of the season, and then typical Cal Allen fashion, they start to pick up, and they just, next thing you know, they're sitting in the 5th round of the playoffs. You're like, man, where'd this team come from? But I do, of course, we haven't had our hands on it as much with all the coronavirus and whatnot, but I think the lack of running back and quarterback coming back next year could potentially be a big blow for Cal. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they're not going to be good. They normally have kids coming up in the program because Coach Danaher has a really sound program over there. But until we start hearing these, I guess, kids' names and whatnot and getting a little more eyes on them, it's going to be a up in the air kind of guess on how they're going to come out and perform. And, if Miller catches them early on in the season, could take them to the house. It just depends. I think a lot of people are still going to be sleeping on Miller. I really do.
I think so too. When this realignment came out, Kevin, the first thing everybody around the area was saying, "Oh, Cal Allen's finally going to get their title." That's the first thing that was coming out of people's mouths down here was. But I don't think people realize the schools that are in 4A D1. Spud mentioned one earlier is El Campo. El Campo has Ruben Owens III, who is going to be is he a sophomore this year? He's going to be a junior.
Sophomore or junior, but he's already got offers from Oklahoma.
He's got a number of D1 schools that are looking at him already and that have offered. And they had and he was
on that team, by the way.
Yeah, they're a slot T offense as well. Who, I mean, nobody around here could stop. I mean, we had Rockport didn't play him. Oh, Rockport played him in preseason.
Rockport played him in preseason.
And we've got Coach Seibert, who's the head coach of Rockport Fulton. We work with his brother, and he was telling us, man, those Bay City kids are something else. Campo. I'm sorry. Bay City's on the mind because they're in that district as well. They just hired a new head coach. But yeah, you start getting into Region 3, Region 2, and Region 1 in that district, and it's pretty tough. But I think our guys there at District 15 are gonna make some noise.
Well, I'm just gonna say this right now. Anyone who put that thing out there, Cal Allen's gonna win another state title, or they're gonna win a state title finally going into this district, I would have put every single thing I had on the fact they would not have won that title had they been in that 4A class last year. They would no way they would beat Waco La Vega. And what was the team that knocked out Waco La Vega?
Was it Argyle?
No. Red. They're from East Texas. I actually think they dropped down Carthage.
Carthage.
No way they would have beat Carthage or Waco La Vega. I'm sorry. I'm not being a hater, I'm being a realist on that one.
Yeah, if down here, Kevin, I don't know if it's like that up there, but anytime you don't even have to be dogging Cal Allen, but if you just say something that goes against the opinion of how well Cal Allen is, you're automatically a Cal Allen hater. That's how it works down here.
No, well, some schools, yeah. Some schools, yeah. If we say one thing, not negative, but if we don't pick them to win, for instance, all of a sudden we don't know, either we don't know what we're talking about, or we're a hater.
Yeah. But going back to Rockport and that big valley district that we've got there in 4A D2, Rockport was a missed 2-point conversion away from beating Wimberley, and Wimberley went. Did they go to the final?
Which
Split?
state?
They went to state. And Rockport returns a lot of those kids, and they're the same thing. They're a slot T or an option offense, and they're bringing up a quarterback this year who could potentially be a starter and be very dynamic, and you could potentially see something that Beeville runs. Beeville runs like a hybrid spread option offense, which if you guys are familiar with UTSA football, was run to perfection by Eric Souza, who's the offensive coordinator down there in Beeville under his son, Chris Souza. Eric actually scored the first touchdown. We had him on the show a while back when they first got to Beeville. He actually scored the first touchdown in UTSA football history. So that's not a bad guy to learn from. He was a GA under Tom Herman up at Houston, and was going to go that route, and then eventually took a job with his dad instead, just to kind of work with his old man, learn a little more. But yeah, it's going to be tough. Our and kind of just segueing into other things, our biggest thing down here that's happened during this offseason is coaching changes. We've had a lot of coaching changes, not really at the higher levels, but in the mid levels. Skidmore Tynan still looking for a head coach. Falls City, I think, is hiring a coach tonight. Three Rivers just hired a coach. Who else was hiring? Corpus Christi King just hired a coach. West Oso is open right now. Pete Guajardo just resigned last week. There's a lot of movements around here. Freer, Jerry Carpentier resigned, and he took the job at Santa Gratuitous, who's another school that's going to be playing down in the Valley this year in 3A D1. Yeah, that's the biggest one. And I guess that creates kind of with this whole thing going on, that creates all kinds of problems, right? Because, installing offenses and learning terminology and things like that, how do you do that through Zoom, right?
Yeah, and so that was an interesting conversation I had with some coaches that were, because Donna North, they went ahead and hired their coaches in the middle of this pandemic. Progresso, I believe, has not hired what coach yet. Port Isabel has not either. But talking with these guys who were maybe thinking about applying, the question is, okay, I'm going to go apply. How do we do the interviews? If I get the job, when am I going to meet my kids? How am I going to meet my kids? And you're right. You're way behind the 8 ball, and there's just so much uncertainty to when are you going to be able to work with your kids, and how are you going to be able to do it? And you're right. You're supposed to teach your offense through a Zoom meeting with a bunch of fresh new faces. It's definitely a challenge. And from what I understood, Port Isabel, they put a halt on their hiring process because of all this. There's just too much uncertainty. But I do believe it is a big challenge for new coaches wanting to take on a job.
Yeah, one of the names that I forgot to mention is probably the biggest hire in the area is Bishop. Bud, do you remember this one?
Oh yeah, the offensive coordinator from Bishop Gorman.
Bishop Gorman in Nevada, yes, of Snoop Dogg's sons fame out there. They're a powerhouse private school. Yeah, so Bishop hired Louis Rodriguez, who was the offensive coordinator down at Bishop Gorman. Little different as far as personnel than what I would think he's used to.
Oh, very different.
Up there at Bishop Gorman. So that's going to be an interesting to see how that one unfolds this year. And they're in that district with Lyford and Progresso as well.
Dude, you're talking about a guy that's coming from a team who's used to having at least probably 8 out of the 11 starters on his offense with D1 offers, if not backups, that are already having D1 schools look at them, to a team that's, I don't know when the last time they actually had a D1 football player come through the program.
You may, actually, if you go back and watch QB1 on Netflix, he may pop up on an episode here and there.
Probably does. There's a Tate Martell year.
Yeah.
So.
So
So,
that's going to be interesting.
so Justin, your nickname,
Spud.
Bud, talk to us. What's the backstory?
Oh man, I got that my first month when I hired back at Lyondale. I was probably 20. We were talking about football, as we always do. And I brought up the fact that Jared Zabransky could throw a potato. I think it was 100 yards was the article I read. And that could be completely true or not. I'm pretty sure it was. But anyways, so they just stuck, right? The older man that he no longer works with us, he took another job. He kind of took me under his wing. That was just my nickname. I came back to work and pretty much everyone started calling me Spud right off the bat. And I was just kind of shocked, like, what are they talking about, Spud? And then, yeah, you said Jared Zabransky could throw a potato 100 yards. Your name's Spud. So it stuck, and 7 years later, it's still going on. And I mean, Jacob came in 3 years ago now, and
Yeah,
that's what he knows me by. So I had it for 4 years prior to that, and that's pretty much it. It's just I brought up the fact to a bunch of older guys that a guy could throw a potato 100 yards, and Spud it is.
who's got the cops out there? Is that you, Kevin?
Dude,
That
we
you
have
Spud?
another
Wow.
chase. Honestly, we had one yesterday, wrecked over by A1. How pathetic.
Oh man, Portland's going down the drain real quick, dude. Real quick.
So guys, what's before we wrap up, what's the big announcement that you guys wanted to share?
Oh yeah, so we've got some news, right? I guess that's
Lead into it, right?
yeah. Well, first off, when we started when you started letting us know that we're getting on the show and you're having us on and you tweeted all the stuff out, man, we were like, man, we're getting a lot of retweets, a lot of likes on this thing, right? Then we saw who you had on the lineup. And I was like, oh, maybe this wasn't for us.
Yeah.
Right. So we kind of got big headed there for a little bit, but thanks for giving us that little ego boost for a little bit.
No, they were excited to hear you guys. No,
But
look at their corporate fix down here.
yeah, but so I guess our big announcement is that we are stopping our podcast. So we're stopping the podcast because honestly it takes up a lot of time, as you know.
Mhm.
We work 12-hour shifts at work. During the football season, we're spending 3-4 hours extra going to somebody else's house to record this thing or going out and doing interviews or whatnot.
5:30 a.m. Monday morning shows, getting off of 12-hour shift. I mean, it's rough.
Yeah, and same thing, man. We're trying to get with coaches or trying to get with players for interviews, and well, Spud may be taking overtime one day and he's working 2 extra nights, but I'm off and I'm working 2 early days and he's off. So trying to match the schedules up and things like that, it was very tough. So it took a toll.
Let alone divorced. Right?
Yeah. You tell your wife, hey, I'm off this Friday. And you're like, oh, great, but I'm going to a football game to cover it. You get the side eye look. And you leave and you hope the locks aren't changed when you come home that night, right? So we're putting the podcast on hiatus for right now. We're keeping our social media accounts open because the whole reason we got into this thing was to put a spotlight on Coastal Bend athletes, right? Because you're in the media. The RGV doesn't get a lot of statewide coverage as well. I mean, we get a lot of local coverage, but that's the extent of it. And you guys, as well as us, have some tremendous athletes and some tremendous programs. So our plan is to keep our accounts open and keep pushing these kids and keep pushing these programs out to our followers and hopefully, in the large scale of things that maybe we can help a kid get noticed that wasn't getting noticed before, right? And maybe change his life. Right. So we're going to keep doing that. We're kind of working on the back burner. We like this whole Zoom idea.
Yeah.
It's a whole lot easier. Spud can still go home and I can come home after a 12-hour shift. Like I said, my day when I'm working day shift starts at 3:30 in the morning because that's the time I'm getting up, get ready, eat breakfast, head to work.
Sleep.
Yeah. And head to work for a 12-hour shift that starts at 5:30 and rolls off at 5:30 that evening. And then you start throwing 3 hours of podcast coverage or interview coverage in on the day after that. That's very minimal time for family time. So
You know, what's man, that stinks, man, because I dig y'all's show, and it was really cool because you know, I, anytime I needed to know anything about Corpus, I'd hit you guys up. I'd check y'all's Twitter, I'd check y'all's show out. So I mean, you guys were very informative. But what's y'all's Twitter for the people out there that can know to continue following you guys?
So our Twitter is at STFUNLTD. That's our Twitter. And our Facebook page is South Texas Football Unlimited. Same thing, same kind of handle at STFUNLTD. Our email is STFUNLTD at yahoo.com. Like I said, we're still going to be around. We're toying about what we're gonna do in the future. Like I said, we kind of like this whole Zoom idea because we could still go home, we can conduct interviews, and we can probably, I mean,
You can
just
record it.
yeah, just
It
what you
doesn't
guys
have
are
to not
doing.
get recorded.
So keeping a show alive with Zoom, I think, is pretty real, right? You'd say, Jacob?
I think so. I think so. And we were going to kind of use this thing as kind of a test run and see how we liked it. Um, so yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So honestly, Kevin, it probably we probably wouldn't even have thought of this if you hadn't extended the offer to come on the show. And again, the whole thing is to put a spotlight on our kids, man, and our coaches and our programs. You know, a lot of folks, I mean, we do okay financially at work. We do okay.
Mhm.
So we're not in this for the money. We're not trying to go out and sell ads and try to promote ourselves. I mean, yeah, we're
Kids. That's not the ideal here.
yeah,
Right.
this wasn't try to make money off kids. This is to try to get our kids exposed and luckily we're in positions where we can afford to do that. We know some people can't. But we're in a position where we can afford to do that. And so it's not about the money with us. It's just about getting these kids out and putting a face on them. Speaking of, I know we're running out of time, but July 15th, is it the 15th or the 16th? Todd Dodge is coming to Portland. We saw a lot of Valley kids that came to that camp last week. Todd Dodge, Coach Dodge.
I want to see Deron there this year.
What's that?
I want to see Jeremy there this year.
Yeah, I'd like to see Jeremy there. We saw Joey Kriegbaum last year.
Okay.
We saw he was the backup this year at RGC. Kevin Ledesma. I think no, it's not Kevin Ledesma. Kevin I can't remember his name, but we met at the time he was the newly hired Rattlers head coach down there. There was a lot of Valley kids that came up. This camp it's meant to take your skill players, your quarterback, your receivers, and your running back. Go as a team. You know, get some reps in while you can. Learn a lot from these quarterbacks. He brings his Westlake staff down with him, and some former players as well. And for those of you guys who don't follow Todd Dodge, he's a UT grad, played at UT, lettered at UT as quarterback. He's coached a few NFL quarterbacks, Chase Daniel, some successful college quarterbacks, high school quarterbacks, Riley Dodge, who's now the head coach at South Lake Carroll, Greg McElroy, who won a national championship at the University of Alabama. Spud, who else? Sam Ellinger, duh, current quarterback at UT. You know, so the guy knows what he's doing. And again, we're not getting any kickback off of this, but we just think it's a valuable tool that our kids can use.
Yeah, interview with us last year, he was tremendous. I mean, if you ever get a chance to go back and watch that episode of that or listen to that episode of that podcast, he was tremendous. I mean, he gave so much background info on himself, his offense, just his philosophy. And honestly, he's one of the more innovative minds when it comes to high school football in Texas that we've seen. You know, I mean, if you go back to the South Lake Carroll days, that was a high flying offense, and he had tons of talent and won titles with it. And I think a lot of coaches that are coaching now try to mold their offenses around what he does. So it's very good to get your kids out there. We saw a team from Windthorst bring down a quarterback and running back and two receivers.
Yeah.
And they ran through the camp together, and it was good, man. They had a good run this year, and we enjoyed it.
The camp's in Corpus?
It's going to be at Gregory Portland High School.
Okay, yeah, keep us in the loop. Hopefully by July, I imagine things will be a lot better.
I hope so, and that's what they're planning for.
Give that some coverage.
Yeah.
Keep us in the loop. And I was talking with Joe. He was excited. The mastermind behind all of our Real Sports Live. We were gonna talk with you guys of having you guys on our show come football season. So you guys are more than welcome to join our show because this is something too that we're just now learning. with Zoom, because obviously right now we would be in softball playoff mode, baseball playoff mode. And when this whole thing struck, obviously sports got put on pause, and it's kind of like, okay, what can we do to kind of just adjust to the times? And like, well, let's start a show, let's do Zoom, let's try this. So, it's a little bit of mix and match, but it's been a lot of fun. And this is something we do want to keep going forward once sports does come back. But you guys are welcome on anytime on our show. We'll plan it out, and you guys can come on and we can talk football throughout the season. So, anytime you guys want to come on, and if you guys need any help setting up the Zoom stuff and anything like that, you guys have my number, and, just feel free to ask and we can help you guys out. It's a lot easier.
Man.
It's a lot easier.
It is, man. I mean, that's what we're talking about. It's like, man, we don't have to change our lives essentially to get something done. So it's actually pretty cool. We like it. And speaking of that, we really love what Joe Bowling and you guys are doing there at Real Sports Live. Man, you guys came in clutch during the season last year, streaming the football games.
Yes.
Being able to watch and keep up with what the kids were doing down there. Man, we wish somebody had the resources up here in the Coastal Bend to do that.
Yeah.
Not just the highlight games that the news stations put on or the local stations put on, but some of these other games that may have implications later on down the road. So yeah, we love what you guys are doing down there.
Definitely. Yeah, I know we appreciate it. And, we've already reached out into the Corpus area. We did a couple basketball games. I think we covered Flower Bluff earlier this year, girls basketball, Corpus Christi veterans. And, we've touched on some of the Corpus schools, and we've dipped our toes in the football realm when it comes to football as well, on streaming some games. So I know this year we were excited to cover some SGA softball, some Coastal Bend baseball. We were really excited to get involved with the spring sports and what Corpus does. But of course, obviously, with everything in the pandemic and all. But we're looking forward to definitely expanding into the Corpus area and getting some games covered out there.
I tell you what, one of the positive things if there's anything that's come out of this whole pandemic thing is figuring out new ways to do things. And right now, locally, you guys are at the tip of the spear, because you guys are doing this stuff already. If we do get back to sports but we're still social distancing and things like that, nobody's allowed. Right now, you guys are the monopoly, man.
Yeah.
So
no, I appreciate it. Yeah, no, it's just, we're all in the same boat, on just having these kids on there, particularly the seniors in this case, kind of giving these seniors their last sort of limelight, and, their last chance to kind of tell their story, sharing their thoughts about their season and their careers and stuff like that. So that's been a lot of fun too. And then having fellow media members on as well, like you guys, to share y'all.
Hey, slow down. We don't even fact check, dude.
Media mafia. Yeah, seriously though, before we do get off, I do want people that if they are listening, we aren't disappearing off the face of the planet. We're not just, you're going to wake up one day and we're no longer going to be involved with the sports down here. We're going to have some type of hold on it, because that was one of the things I think I speak for Jacob as well, is when we started discussing, doing away with the podcast, we did it only for 2 years, but it was one of those things to me personally. I was like, yes, I do want to do away with it, but at the same time, like, I didn't want to not be involved, because we did make good relationships with people down here and a lot of kids that we don't get to see normally. And to me, that kind of took a little bit of a toll, in a good way on my life. And I definitely want to stay involved. So don't think we're disappearing for the people that do like the show and follow. Like, we're going to have some type of threshold on it some way or another. I do believe that.
Any shout outs you guys want to give to maybe any family or friends tuning in before we wrap up?
And I'm okay. I got a lot of toilet paper here, guys. So you've got our Twitter account. So if you need some TP, times get hard.
Hey, shout out to the South Texas Bull. He knows who he is.
Oh yeah, we gotta give a shout out to the STX Bull who's out there. Well, he doesn't even have Facebook, dude.
Yeah, we rebranded the Snack Hounds Roll, dude. He's the South Texas Bull, man. STX Beef. So
yeah,
for him.
So that just about wraps up our first show today. Jake and Justin from South Texas Football Unlimited, and of course our honorary members of the 956 Media Mafia. Later today at 3, my buddy Mark Molina, he's going to be joining me. We're going to have NXT superstar Raquel Gonzalez at 3. And then former La Feria Lion, Darius Hernandez, he's up at Clark University, playing wide receiver up there. Darius is going to be joining the show at 5. So, guys, it was fun. Enjoyed having you guys. I'm glad you guys were able to cut some time out in y'all's day and come on with your toilet paper and the fly.
Yeah.
That couldn't have worked out any better, dude.
Rocking and you're rocking the GP swag there. You got your Gregory Portland. There you go. Oh, you got your Snakeskin Classic. There you go.
Yep.
Sherryland and
Yep.
Sherryland Pioneer.
Hey, we're
dude.
still taking gifts, man. You programs out there. We got these sent the Sherry, the Rattler sent this to us, right? I got one too. So
I got my alma mater right here.
Oh, there you go.
we are
North, baby.
we are definitely not above to take in free swag. Definitely not above it. Not going to guarantee you more coverage, but we're definitely not above taking free stuff.
Nothing wrong with representing the program on your off time.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
All right, guys. Anytime
Thanks,
you
Kevin.
guys want to come on, man, thanks. It was fun. So we'll see you guys back at 3 o'clock. So thanks for joining us, guys.